Welcome back, episode 5, a deep dive into defenders. So, last episode, what we covered was top 10 fantasy scoring defenders and the template for that. And what we figured out, or what I showed, was that to be a top 10 defender, you need to have certain qualifications. And the qualifications being the main one was that you own your team's power play, but that's not enough. You also have to have an effective power play. Um, so what we saw was New York Rangers, effective players on the power play that promote the D-man up. So Tony DeAngelo and John Carlson, another top scoring defender, playing with Oshie, Backstrom, Ovechkin. So a lot of fantasy points there. Zach Werenski owning the power play. So that's the main qualification: own the power play. And if you want it to be even better, or if you want your player to be even better, have them be on an effective power play. So Tyson Barrie going into Edmonton, Connor Leon Nuge, very effective going into that. So expect him to just have a monster year. Um, so with that means owning your power play means you're having a lot of minutes. So the qualification that you'll see as a byproduct is that in owning the power play and being on your team's top pairing top pairing line or D1 line, they end up having about 23 minutes a game. And then the outlier being uh, the third line player who's the power play specialist, who was Tony DeAngelo. So, with all that information, you could kind of make the ideal defender and what you're trying to look for. And from that, your drafts go on, or as uh, you're trying to evaluate your talent in deeper leagues, you should look for this. You should use this template, and from that, you can kind of um, get an idea of what or how your defenders are going to produce over the season. So with that being said, I feel like just naming who I think will be the top 10 just isn't enough. So this episode, we're going to take a deep dive into fantasy defenders, and I want to go over, or I just want to focus. There was two aspects. There was the good, who's going to produce points, and then the bad, who you should stay away from. So this will be a part one of this deep dive into defenders, and right now we're going to focus on those who look to get points. And from that, I broke it down into three categories. So the first one being who I think are going to break out this year in terms of being a defender that was maybe drafted early but didn't have a chance to take over the team's power play, or it's just got traded, or had someone on their team get traded and now they're going to be thrust into more minutes. So that's what we're going to be seeing here in the breakout category. So just like I said, Adam Boqvist, high draft pick in Chicago, Duncan Keith. I mean, his time's catching up to him. So I think Chicago's going to want to develop these young guys like Doc Boqvist here. So Adam Boqvist, top of my chart in terms of he's probably going to maybe double his fantasy point production. If you look on my list on the Google Doc, just click on the link there in the YouTube in my description. And I break it all down in episode 2, how to look at the points, and then it's all broken down too in the Google Doc. So Boqvist first, Hronik. So this is what I mean by being on an effective power play versus owning your team's power play, maybe it not being so effective. So Detroit, I mean, they have Larkin, Mantha, but they're just not there in terms of overall skill to compare it to Edmonton. So if Hronik was owning Edmonton's power play, he'd be a lot more valuable, but he's not. So, I mean, he's going to have a good year, but I would probably have McAvoy, Boqvist, Provorov, Shabbat, Dallin all above him in terms of producing points this year. But he's right now Detroit's main two guy. So you want to have that guy owning the power play. These guys would be your perfect number 2 on your team. So in those Yahoo leagues, 16 teams, 18 leagues, or 12-team leagues, if you have these guys as your number 2, you're doing a good job. So another guy I want to speak about is just McAvoy here. Krug left Boston. he's going to get a lot more minutes. He's going to be their go-to guy on the power play. Marchand, Pasternak, Bergeron. He's just going to get points, even if he's this guy that's the second assist man. So you pass it to someone, pass it to Bergeron, he'll pass it to Pasternak, he'll score, kind of thing. So you're just going to get points with these guys here. And that's why they're going to break out. They didn't have that opportunity last year. I feel like Provorov was held back by still Ghost, and I feel like Philly kind of rotates their D. But if they hold him tight on the 1D slot, he's going to break out. Taylor Hall coming into Buffalo, I think that really helps out Dahlin. I think he's going to have a big, big year. And then Shabbat, question mark, we addressed it last episode, but really where is Ottawa in terms of their overall skill? I don't think they're there yet, just like Philip Hronik. So question mark with him, question mark with Hronik in terms of breakout. But I feel like they would be in between this next category, which is steadily improved. So what you'll see here is all these guys have a 1D ahead of them, or they're about to be groomed into the 1D. So Jacob Chikrin, top of the list here. I don't think he's about to break out just yet because Arizona has Ekman Larson. They're obviously going to be respectful to him. It's just a thing clubs do. So Chikrin, top of the list of steadily improved. They're going to give him more power play minutes, but Arizona's just like Detroit and Ottawa, not really a whole lot of talent in terms of what other teams have to offer on their first power play. So look for him to be a steady improver. John Marino, just in terms of more ice time as well, another year in the NHL. Rasmus Anderson, I think, will have a lot better year. Calgary traded TJ Brody, or lost TJ Brody, and I think there's another one on the who might not even sign back. So he has the chance for a lot more minutes. Same thing with Dante Fabro and Grzelcyk in Buffalo or Boston, Fabro in Nashville. So Grzelcyk, Krug's gone, Char might not be back. He might be on the first pairing with McAvoy. So, and then second line power play. So just going to bound to get points just through that. And then Nurse and Ethan Bear. So I think these guys are just going to steadily improve, not going to break out. And that's because Tyson Barrie's there. So Barrie is going to prevent them from breaking out, but not prevent them from having better seasons than what they did last year. And that's pretty big for Ethan Bear. Played 72 games. So that's good. Last one, Hiskinen. Why? Same thing as Chikrin, but on a greater level with John Klingberg still pushing him down. No fault of his own, just Dallas is going to be respectful to Klingberg. Klingberg's power knows what to do on the power play. So he's going to steadily improve, but he won't break out. But his version of steadily improving is probably better than, I'd say, Philip Hronik and his power play owning. Just because Hiskinen is that much better in terms of raw talent. That's just my potential. It's my favorite player, and I'm going to admit my bias. So last on the list, sturdy producers, and what do we see here? Well, you see guys that are first line defenders, but either getting pushed down because of guys coming up or just not owning the team's first line power play, yet these guys just still get a lot of minutes because their coach trusts them that much. So first on the list would be Jacob Slavin, because there's Dougie Hamilton and Jake Gardiner in Carolina, so doesn't really get a lot of chance on the power play. But that being said, his 5-on-5 play is really productive. So if he was your number 4 guy on a Yahoo league, then you're probably pretty happy in terms of where your defense is. And then, like, say if you're in a deep dynasty league and he's your 3rd guy, then things are probably pretty good too. So Slavin, he's just a sturdy producer. You can rely on him for that. So that's really nice to have. And then you can say the same for Rasmus Ristolainen and Duncan Keith. Just guys that play a lot of minutes, going to get power play time because there's no one underneath them in terms of being able to play those minutes, they just wouldn't be as productive. Like Buffalo's pretty thin on the defense in terms of production after Ristolainen, and same for Chicago after Duncan Keith. So Boqvist will probably try to get pushed into that 1D role, and then Keith pushed into the 2D, and then through that, he's still going to be a steady producer because he's still going to play the second power play. So you kind of see how this is taking how you move away from that 1D spot, or from the top 10D, you're moving away, and then you're kind of having to break away from more minutes to less minutes, but the specialized minutes. And then you take all what I said there and you forget about it with Jack Morrissey, who I think he's just going to be one of those, you want him as your fourth D guy on D team or Yahoo, and that's just because Winnipeg has Neil Pionk on the first power play, but if he gets hurt, Morrissey's going to slot right in there. And Morrissey plays almost like 25 minutes a game. So even though he doesn't really score a lot, he's going to be on the ice a lot. And if your team doesn't count plus minus, well, he's just bound to get shots and assists. And I mean, he's just going to get those points just through virtue of playing a lot. So on my list here, he'd probably be last, but I still think you would want him on your team in some aspect. Not your go-to guy, not your second guy, not even your third guy, but you'd want that reliable player who you know is going to get minutes. So have him be a support player on your team, and you're doing pretty good. Justin Schultz about to take over Washington's second power play, so that's pretty valuable minutes. Not going to steadily improve. Probably might take a step back, but just like Morrissey, if he's your fourth guy, that's pretty good. And Nate Schmidt, another guy who you'd want probably fourth on your roster because he's going to get a lot more minutes in Vancouver. I just think, given Vancouver's defense template, that's the way they're going to ride him probably pretty hard here. I think they're pretty happy with the player they got. So this was my deep dive into defenders here, about once you get out of the top 10 in terms of fantasy points, what you should be looking for, and that player's going to be playing on the top power play, and then if not the top power play, then the second power play, and if not that, then lots of minutes. Just you want your guys playing, and that's the way you get points in fantasy hockey. You don't want those guys riding the bench and hoping for the best kind of thing. That's not the way to go about it. So next episode, I'm going to cover defense to stay away from, specifically those Jack Morrissey guys who play on the first line, but will never get those fantasy points. Like Morrissey, he gets shots and he'll play second power play, but these next guys we're going to be looking at first line D minutes, but no power play and hardly generate offense on their own. So those are the guys we'll want to stay away from. And yeah, episode 5, deep dive into Fantasy D, part 1.